I didn't expect a thank you, but I didn't expect exile either. It started with a dinner invitation, one of those half-obligated, half-passive-aggressive things my family does when they want something. The house smelled like cinnamon and guilt, and Paige, my sister, was already on her third glass of wine talking about Sedona like it was some kind of holy land. 15,000, Mom said casually like she was reading off a grocery list. It's an energy reset, a spiritual cleanse. You know how much Paige has carried for this family. I didn't respond right away. I just stirred my tea, watching the lemon wedge sink. Dad glanced at me like he was bracing for a problem. You said you were liquidating that savings account, he said. You mentioned it last month. What's the holdup? I looked up. Calm, steady. I didn't fund the retreat, I said. I used the money to start something, a nonprofit. The room went still, like a power outage had cut through every line of polite silence. A nonprofit, Mom repeated like the word itself was sour. For what? Free trauma-informed counseling. For women who can't afford therapy. It's called The Quiet Ground. Paige laughed into her wine glass. You're kidding. I'm not, I said. Dad leaned back his jaw tight. You used family money. It was my money, I corrected. You chose strangers over your sister, Mom said, standing now. You've always needed to be the center of something, even grief. I didn't argue. I knew better. When love becomes performance the moment you stop playing your part, you're not needed anymore. That night, they removed me from the family group chat, blocked me from the retreat RSVP. No calls, no questions, just a silent decision dressed up as spiritual boundaries. I didn't even cry, but I did write one sentence in my notebook before I turned off the light. They didn't want me gone. They wanted me small. It didn't start with the nonprofit, or the retreat, or even the silence after. It started years before that. Slowly, softly, in ways you can't prove, until one day you realize no one says your name at dinner anymore, and no one notices. I was 13 the first time I felt it. Paige had forgotten her flute at school. I had just gotten first place in the state essay competition. Mom walked in holding her car keys, coat still on, and said, Elena, could you warm up leftovers? I need to take your sister back to campus. No one asked about the medal in my backpack. I didn't offer. Later that night, I remember standing at the sink scraping old sauce from the edge of a plate and hearing them laugh in the carport, Paige and Mom. They always laughed like that when I wasn't around. It kept happening. Holidays came and went. Paige got weekend trips and spa gift cards. I got... You understand, right? Paige has been going through a lot. And maybe she had. I don't know, but I had my own lot too. It just didn't look good on Instagram. By college, I stopped bringing things home. Good grades, research assistant jobs, offers to speak at campus events. They never asked, and I never wanted to explain why I wasn't the fun one. When Dad's memory started slipping, I stayed in town. Paige didn't. She was exploring boundaries. I was sorting medication, canceling his Amazon autoship, and trying to convince Mom that forgetting names wasn't just being tired. Mom said I had always been the caretaker. Like that was a compliment. But caretaking in our house was just the polite word for cleaning up after people who never thanked you. There were no slaps, no slammed doors, just 1,000 paper cuts carefully placed over time. I remember birthdays where the cake was vanilla even though I hated vanilla. Cards signed, love you girls with only Paige underlined. And always, always that look Mom gave me when I pushed back even a little. The why can't you just let things go look. So I started letting things go. Expectations, invitations, hope. I stopped offering to help with retreats or fundraisers, stopped trying to explain what my work actually involved, stopped waiting for someone to say thank you when I stayed 3 hours late to fix Dad's medical bills because Paige was recharging in nature. And when I finally told them about the quiet ground, it wasn't to win approval. It was just what I had built, brick by brick, session by session, breath by breath. Mom tilted her head and said, It's good you're finding purpose. Just don't let it become your whole personality. I smiled, nodded. That's what I always did. Kept the peace. Made the tea. Bit the inside of my cheek until the words faded away. Because in this family, invisibility wasn't punishment. It was the price of staying allowed in the room. The quiet ground didn't begin as a mission. It started as a coping mechanism. A place where I could breathe without someone asking if I was okay, just so they could say I wasn't. One rented room, a cracked linoleum floor, 2 mismatched chairs, and a folding table I pulled from someone's curb. The first week, no one came. The second week, one woman showed up. Sat on the edge of the chair like she was expecting to be judged for needing a place like this. She didn't talk much, just cried into a paper napkin and said, "I don't want to explain myself again." I told her she didn't have to. That was our beginning. She came back. Then brought her neighbor. Then a cousin. None of them had insurance. Some didn't have phones. One walked 20 blocks every Thursday in shoes that didn't fit. They didn't say thank you. They said things like, "This is the only place I don't have to apologize for how long I've been stuck." And that was enough. I didn't have donors or partnerships or business cards with raised lettering, but I had a kettle that mostly worked and a shelf of dog-eared books. And people came. I built it between freelance gigs, editing grants, formatting resumes, answering customer service emails under a fake name. Whatever paid just enough to keep the lights on. And when they went off for a week, we met by candlelight. No one complained. That's the thing about survival work. It rarely looks impressive. No branded merchandise, no banner, no yoga on the roof. Just a circle of chairs and the courage to sit inside your own story without flinching. Meanwhile, Paige was soaring. She launched a wellness brand, had a podcast, interviews, ambassadors. She wore linen and quoted Rumi and lit sage on camera while calling it ancestral renewal. Mom watched every video, forwarded me the highlights, sometimes with messages like, "You and your sister are both doing such good work in your own ways." It stung. Not because I wanted her to be proud of me, but because she equated candlelight support groups with sponsored content and detox juice, as if impact could be measured in likes. The last time I heard her voice before everything fell apart, it came through voicemail. She said Paige had found a retreat program that would elevate her emotional frequency, but needed help covering the tuition. I had just finished leading a group for survivors of religious abuse. We sat on the floor with peppermint tea and shared the things we weren't allowed to say in childhood. I walked home in the dark and pressed play. "Elena, I know your little project is important to you, but Paige is doing this for all of us. You could really step up here. It's what family does." She called it a little project, and still expected me to fund the glow-up. The email subject line said "Celebrating Women Who Heal, an Evening of Resilience and Light." At first, I thought it was spam. Then I saw the name, Paige Vale, and just beneath it in gold serif font co-founder The Quiet Ground. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not partner, not collaborator, founder, as if she'd built it herself brick by quiet brick. The flyer was beautiful professional, warm beige and soft lavender tones. Photos from inside the space our circle chairs, our tea shelf, our community wall. I didn't even know anyone had taken pictures. At the bottom there was a quote, "Healing starts where judgment ends. Paige Vale." I had written those exact words on a sticky note last winter, posted on the bulletin board beside the exit door. She had turned it into branding. I tried calling the listed number. No answer. I emailed. Twice. Nothing. Then a few days later, someone showed up at my office. Early morning. Bright-eyed brisk, wearing a flowing cardigan and holding a ring light under one arm. "Hi," she beamed. "We're filming a short promo for the gala. Paige said this space captures the essence of the journey. Would it be okay if we just grabbed a few shots?" She was already halfway through the front door when I blocked her path. "Excuse me, what did Paige tell you this was?" Her voice stuttered. "The community site for her healing initiative. She said you helped anchor the logistics." The logistics. I didn't answer. I didn't explain. I just told her to leave, calmly, firmly, and locked the door behind her. That evening, I checked our nonprofit email again. A new message was sitting at the top of the inbox. Attached a copy of Paige's grant application to the Wellness Equity Fund. The cover page had our logo pixelated from being copied too many times. 14 pages of budget projections, event programming, and press language. My name was there too, not as founder, not even as co-director, just program support. E. Vale Independent Contractor. I scrolled to the signature block. There it was, Paige's name signed in lavender ink. She had requested $25,000 for my work, for our space. And no one had said a word to me. Not Mom, not Paige, not the funders, not the organizers. They hadn't ignored me. They had absorbed me, folded my life's work into her storyline like it had always belonged there. That night I opened a bottle of grocery store red and drank it straight from the bottle. No music. No lights. Just me, a locked door, and the growing clarity that they hadn't returned because they cared. They had returned because I had finally become useful. I didn't decide to go right away. At first, I told myself it didn't matter, that I had better things to do than walk into a room full of people who didn't know my name at an event built on work I had bled for. But then the confirmation email came through. The grant had been approved, $25,000 issued under Paige's name for a program she did not create. That's when I stopped waiting for clarity. There was no misunderstanding, no crossed wires, no innocent mix-up. This was theft draped in wellness language and pastel font, so I made a plan. Not dramatic, just precise. I gathered everything: emails, original documents, screenshots, timestamps. I forwarded them to the Grant Foundation, to the venue coordinator, to a lawyer I knew from a pro bono network. Then I ordered a ticket. The gala was held at the Parkhurst Ballroom, one of those over-renovated landmarks turned event space where you can smell the money in the wallpaper. The lighting was soft rose. The tables were round and overdressed. Everyone wore cream or charcoal. I came in quiet, head-down seat near the back. I didn't need a spotlight. I just needed them to see the truth. Paige took the stage right on schedule. She looked perfect, flowy dress, barefoot in a way that said expensive freedom. Her hair curled like a woman too grounded to care about approval. The room leaned in when she spoke. This journey, she said, hand to chest, didn't begin with ambition. It began with ache. I created the quiet ground to honor the women who never got to speak. My throat tightened. Someone near me whispered, "She's so authentic." She wasn't even nervous. That's what stung most. Then, right before the award presentation, a man in a dark suit walked across the stage. No introduction. No fanfare. Just one sealed envelope. Paige took it without looking up, still smiling for the room. She opened it mid-sentence as if it were a note from the lighting crew. Her eyes flickered across the page. Once. Twice. Her mouth froze mid-word. The screen behind her, set to loop testimonials, sputtered, then glitched, then changed. A document came into focus. It was her grant proposal. Unedited. Unredacted. 14 pages. Slide 1, the false team list. My name listed beneath hers. Slide 2, our tea room with the caption, Paige's original trauma-informed design. Slide 3, a screenshot of my original email to the state office, dated a year before she claimed to have envisioned the program. There was no sound. No coughing. No clinking of forks. Only the hum of the projector and Paige's breathing, shallow, broken, exposed. And then, a voice from the crowd. "I can verify that email," someone said. It was Professor Levingston, my trauma ethics advisor from grad school. I supervised Elena's first pilot. This was never Paige's to present. Silence turned. Not sharply. Not like an attack. It shifted like weight sliding off a table, slow and irreversible. Paige tried to recover. Said something about shared inspiration. About the work evolving beyond ownership. But no one clapped. The mic cut out. The host stepped in with a laugh that didn't reach his eyes, thanking everyone for the beautiful energy. They pivoted to a raffle. For a chakra-infused water bottle. People clapped again, but not for her. I stayed in my seat. Still. Steady. I didn't need a speech. The truth had finally spoken on its own, and for once they were all listening. I didn't stay for dessert. Didn't wait for the awkward group photo or the vegan tiramisu served in recycled glass jars. I left before the lights came back up, before anyone remembered I was there. Outside, the street was quiet. My car was parked 3 blocks away, too far for heels, but I didn't mind. The night air felt like rinsing off something that had been stuck to my skin too long. When I got home, I turned on one light and left the rest off. The quiet ground was exactly how I'd left it, still calm, soft lit from a hallway lamp I bought for $10 at a yard sale. I walked past the chairs, the bookshelf, the small basket of wool socks for clients who forgot theirs. Everything we'd built was still standing, still intact. That meant more than any award ever could. I checked the inbox. There it was, an email from the Wellness Equity Fund, funding suspended, review initiated. They thanked me for my documentation and requested a meeting to understand how the misrepresentation occurred. I made tea and let the kettle whistle a little longer than necessary. Just before bed, my phone buzzed, a message from my mother. We didn't know she lied. Paige told us you weren't ready for public responsibility, that you didn't want your name on anything. I stared at the text, and in a moment of complete clarity I realized she meant that. They really believed it. They believed I'd hand over everything I'd built quietly and visibly, just like always. I didn't respond. I closed my phone, placed it face down on the bookshelf, and opened my notebook instead. I wrote down a sentence I'd heard in group the week before from a woman who had never said much until that night. It's not that I stopped wanting them to understand. I just stopped needing them to. I underlined it twice. That's where I was now. Not angry, not vindicated, just done. Done with shrinking so someone else could stretch. Done with being the backstage girl in my own story. The next morning I opened the front door and let in the early light. 2 new names were already on the calendar, both first-time clients, both women who had found us by accident. There are no accidents in healing, just the quiet decision to walk through a door that no one else opened for you. And this time, the door was mine. 2 weeks passed. The inbox quieted. The hashtags faded. Paige hadn't posted since the gala. The apology never came. But a message did. Hey, things have been rough. Any chance I could film something at the nonprofit? Just one short reel. For context. To show I'm still doing the work. Still doing the work. Like it had never been mine. I didn't respond. I didn't delete it either. Instead, I got up, walked to the front door, and took down the old Welcome All sign. Not because it wasn't true, but because it needed clarity. I replaced it with something smaller, a plain wooden plaque. No script font, no pastel colors, just 6 words hand-carved sanded at the edges. This space is not for optics. That afternoon, I hosted a new circle, 3 women. No introductions, just tea, a breath, and the courage to sit still. One of them looked around the room and said, "I don't know why this place feels safe, but it does." I smiled, didn't explain, because truth doesn't need a logo, or a reel, or a forgiveness tour. It just needs time, and quiet, and someone who refuses to let the story be rewritten. I used to beg for love that came with conditions. Now I open the door, and if they ask if this is the quiet ground, I say yes. But I don't say who built it. I let the stillness answer for me.